Welcome and thank you so much for joining me. This is Pastor Errol Williams here for another Thursday night tip. Our focus tonight is on negotiate like a pro. That will be our focus for tonight. So we will get started in around 2 minutes time. We always use those 2 minutes just to check that everything is working well. I want to say welcome to you and to all your friends and family. And if you have anyone that you would like to see this webinar, go ahead and send them the link on Facebook, YouTube, and any of your social connections. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. You can actually participate tonight in our chat room, either at YouTube or at Facebook, or if you got my mobile number, you can go ahead and send me a text as well, and we'd be delighted to actually respond to any comments or questions that you may have. So again, I want to say thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for tuning into the webinar tonight. We will get started in just a moment's time. I want to say welcome and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Pastor Errol Williams, and that is my name, and we will be going through in a very timely way tonight. So if you have your pen and paper, you want to make notes of anything, then go ahead and do so. But our focus tonight is on this amazing topic. So I just want to check just to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and then we will just get started. I want to say welcome to everyone that's at YouTube, and those of you that are on Facebook, thank you so much for joining me. Go ahead and leave any comments if you like in the chat room, and I will pick those up as quickly as possible and go from there. Everything seems to be working perfectly well, so I'm very pleased about that, and so I'm grateful to everyone. Well, we're just 1 week away from our general election. Can you believe that? Next week on the I believe it's the 12th of December will be our general election, so it's going to be an exciting time for us here in the United Kingdom. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Really do appreciate all of you being here tonight. Thank you so much for tuning into the webinar. We will get started in just around 15 to 20 seconds time. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Do appreciate you guys being here. All right. Let's get going then, because as we know, time waits for no one. And I always like to begin this webinar with an introduction of myself, just to say who I am and what I do, and go from there. Just like to say that I'm one of the founders of one of Europe's largest multi-million-pound organization, which we started in 1982. 81, 82. I'm the author of 5 books, and if you want to get access to those 5 books, just go to errolwilliams.org and you can get access there. Lots of experience in terms of leadership, management, training and development with managers around the country in different parts of the world. I've had the honored privilege of training thousands of managers and leaders in different parts of the world. If you'd like to team up with me and donate, then please go ahead and do so. I'm looking to raise £1 million for a variety of different projects, in fact, and looking to train, people, whether they be prisoners or ex-prisoners, whether they be unemployed people, young people, and also to keep our webinars going throughout the years ahead. Right, our focus, as I said, tonight is based around negotiate like a pro. So I want to share with you some of the lessons, if you like, I've learned along the way over the last 35 years or so, and I hope that these tips, these points will be of great benefit to you as you go forward. So let's begin to look at what then is negotiating. What really is it? And I think that this diagram would give an overall understanding. So if you look at the 2 axes that we have here, one is a degree of assertiveness. We talked about that last week, and that's the vertical line going up. On the horizontal, we got degree of cooperation, the ability to cooperate in the process of negotiating. As you can see, we have 4 quadrants. In the lower left quadrant, where you have a low degree of assertiveness, you're very low, maybe passive if you like, but and you also have a low degree of cooperation, lacking cooperation, and very passive. You have a situation where people tend to avoid negotiation, and so we have what we would refer to as a lose-lose situation. If you're very assertive but you're lacking cooperation in terms of negotiating, then you're what we call a dominating person. You're very competitive, and therefore you're looking to the win-lose. And that's normally where I'm at when I'm playing a game of dominoes with my friends. I'm really very competitive, very assertive, very low in terms of cooperation in trying to get them to win. So in that stage, one is more dominating, very competitive, and win-lose. It's like a competing or competitive stance. You may have a person who's very passive in communicating, in negotiating, but they're very, very high in cooperation, and so you can find you're more accommodating. You can find that people take advantage of you, and so you end up losing and they end up winning. So you have a lose-win situation. Right in the center, where you have that compromise right in the center there. But basically what we're looking for is collaboration, really. It's a win-win, that we both win in the situation. It's not a matter of lose-lose, certainly, or competitive win-lose, or yielding or giving up in terms of accommodating lose-win. But the idea of negotiation is to have both parties come into a win-win situation. That's the essence of it. Negotiation then is a mutual agreement or understood outcome between 2 or more parties. That's basically one of the best ways of putting it, if you like. It's a mutual agreement between 2 parties where both parties agree to move forward. Negotiation is to confer with another or others, so it could be a one-on-one or group situation in order to come to terms, to reach an agreement. There is a verse of scripture that the prophet Amos in Amos 3 verse 3 mentioned. He says, "Can 2 walk together except they agree?" The chances are they can, but it wouldn't be a good way forward. So can 2 walk together except they agree? Yes, they can, but it would be very, very challenging and very, very difficult to actually do so. So then negotiation is about reaching a compromise or reaching an agreement between 2 or more parties. Everybody, and this is something that I really want to point out here because it's very, very important for us to understand. Welcome, Sonia and Beckford and others. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you guys. Everybody negotiates. This is the reality. We are all negotiators. We've been negotiating from we were children stage. So, we've always been negotiating, even though people don't tend to realize this. Everybody negotiates constantly, whether it be at work, home, or even as consumers. The moment you're trying to reach some form of agreement, you're really in the process of negotiation, whether you realize it or not. For some people, it's very easy to do. Others view the process as a source of conflict, and so they avoid it as best as possible. You with me? But if you can understand really that negotiation is a part of life, it's something that we've been doing from a very young age. I'll give you an example, actually. There's a time I was out shopping with my wife and children, and one of my daughters says, "Dad, can I have McTucky?" McTucky meant McDonald's or Kentucky. That's how I interpret that. She was very, very young, maybe around 3 or 4 years of age. And I didn't really want to give her Kentucky or McDonald's. I really didn't, because we spent so much money buying the grocery and so on. So I said to her, why don't you take a pack of crisps right now, and then when we go home, Mommy will make you something. She says, no, Daddy, I want McTucky, please, please, please. Really, what she was doing is negotiating. What I didn't realize, I was in a negotiation situation with my young daughter. And I had determined that she was not going to get it until she says, oh, Daddy, please, 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 I'll share it with you. The moment she said that, I felt really obliged to go and get it. So I went out and got her some Kentucky. Well, she was negotiating with me. I was negotiating with her. We ended up in a win-win situation, because I was quite happy to go and get it for her, because we were going to share it together. But the point I'm making is this, that we're always negotiating. That's the general principle I want to get across here. It's not just when you go to work or you're in a conflict situation that we're negotiating. We're negotiating constantly. And as I said, for some people it's very easy, and for others it's a task to try to avoid. Again, negotiation is as old as mankind. In fact, it is an essential element of everyday life. Now, if communication fails, or if communication breaks down, then negotiation fails. And you can see from my picture here, that's not the way really to to negotiate, if you like. And this is really what a lot of people, revert to, whether it be husband and wife situation or friends or whatever. This is what tends to happen. This is how we end up in wars, because there's no negotiation, there's no agreement that we have reached. So we end up in conflicting situations. So negotiation then, all negotiation is communication. That's the reality. All negotiation is communication. So the better you are at communicating, the better you will be at negotiating. Okay, excellent negotiation skills help to gather support. And that's what I'm going to share with you tonight. 11 specific skills that you can use in your situation to actually negotiate like a pro. All right, excellent negotiation skill help to gather support, win the confidence of others, and improve chances of success. Being prepared and physically at ease makes the negotiation process flow more smoothly and effectively. The more at ease you are, the more assertive you are, the better you are at communicating, is the easier it will flow. I want to share with you tips that top executives use during difficult conversations when they're negotiating, that top professionals use generally on a day-to-day basis. I want to share these with you that I've learned over the last 35 years or so. I want you to make note that these top tips I'm about to share with you are tips that I have been sharing for the last 35 years with managers. I've listened to hundreds and thousands of managers and leaders over the last 35 years that I've had the privilege and opportunity of teaching and sharing with and learning from them. I learn a lot in the classroom, especially when I put people into group work, and it's so amazing that the things that they come out with that I find so rewarding and so very, very effective. So I want to share those with you as we go forward. Let me just take some comments here, and I don't want to miss any comments whatsoever. And so let me just take a comment, and then I'll just come right back. I want to say welcome to everyone that's at YouTube. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Pat and Lucas, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you guys being here. And Furio, I think that's the name. You put a noise reduction in Wirecast. Let me see if I can understand what you said here. Let me just make. If you put a noise reduction in Wirecast, we will not list the fan noise. So are you saying that you can hear the fan noise? I'm not sure, because I can't hear one. I've just done a test and I don't hear the fan noise. But thanks for that. I'm not using Wirecast, actually. I'm not using Wirecast. I'm using vMix, by the way. So maybe that's the problem. I'm not sure. Okay. Let me move on. Well, thank you for that. And if it continues, let me know. Okay. All right. Let me start then. Well, let me just go back a bit just to make mention of this. I want to share with you 11 key points. In fact, 11 key points. And each other point start with one of these letters which make the word negotiating. So I want to start with one of the first tip, if you like, a first skill in terms of negotiating like a pro. And first of all, it's to do with your body language. It's to do with what we call non-verbal communication, but it's really your body language in effect. Body language is so important. I've spoken about this last week. I've spoken about this on numerous occasions, that 55% of your communication in the negotiation process is what's being understood by the other side. 55%. 38% is to do with your tone of voice, and 7% is to do with your words. So you have to be extremely very careful, if you like, with regards to your body language, but making sure also that you're observing the body language of the other side, because your body always talks. So be conscious of the messages that your body sends, and also be sure to observe closely the messages being sent via the other person's body language. That's very important, because 38% is through the tone of voice, and 55% of what you understand is from your body language or from their body language. So 93% of the communication to the other side, or the communication from you to them, is through your nonverbal communication. So please bear that in mind. Be wise, and always make sure you support what you say by how you say it. That's very key. And I really want to emphasize this again, that 93% of your nonverbal communication in the negotiation process is due to body language. Now, can I also say this, because this is key actually, because a lot of people don't realize how important a point this is that I am making. Because if you're going to be a professional negotiator, whether it be at home or work, or whether it is wherever it's going to be, in fact, then you must bear in mind that nonverbal communication plays such a crucial part of the whole process. And I want to make it clear again, 93% of your nonverbal communication is going across to the other side. The way you dress, maybe, your mouth, for example, are you smiling or are you frowning? Your appearance, your posture, the way you sit or the way you stand, your gesture, the movement of your hands, your eyes. Are you following me? The voice. All these factors play a very important role in the negotiation. And I want you to bear in mind again, as I made mention, 93% is a lot. So only 7% is words. Only 7% of that communication in that negotiation is words. I really want to labor this point, because I think this point is very significant. That when you go into a negotiation, be very conscious of your nonverbal communication. That is your body language and your tone of voice. And also observe very closely the body language and the tone of voice of the other person. Whether that person is at work or home with a child or with your spouse, or whether it is with a consumer, it really doesn't matter. Bear in mind that your nonverbal communication is very important. It's key to the negotiation, because you're sending messages across to the other person, as well as the other person is sending messages across to you. I really do hope that that makes a great deal of sense. So your nonverbal communication is key and very important to the whole process. All right, let me move on then to second stage of negotiating like a pro, and it is effective listening and communication. Listening actively and with empathy, you know, and build rapport before the negotiation even begins. All right, even before the negotiation begins, you want to build that rapport and make sure that you prepare to listen. And as I've made mention before on numerous occasions, that listening is very, very important in the process. Now, I used last week a mnemonics called LISTEN, and LISTEN, and it means to look interested, to inquire with questions, to stay on target, to test your understanding, to evaluate the message, and to neutralize your feelings. So listening is one of the most powerful skills that I can ever recommend to human beings if they want to increase their assertiveness, increase the ability to communicate, increase the ability to negotiate. Because what I think, one of the things I come to understand is that we are very good at speaking, talking, but sometimes we are not very good at listening with empathy, putting ourselves in the other person's shoes, seeing it the way they see it, hear it the way they hear it, understand it the way they understand it, even go as far as to feel it the way they feel it. So it's very, very important then that we put ourselves in the other person's position, ask questions, and listen closely to words used and feelings expressed. You know, be sure to communicate as an ace communicator. You should be an ace communicator. What do I mean by that? Accurate, clear, and effective. So when you communicate, the information should be accurate. It should be the facts of the situation. It should be accurate. The information that you give across. It should be clear. It shouldn't be information that you have to figure out and try to baffle yourself, and so on. It should be clear. It should be brief. It should be specific. It should be direct. And the information needs to be effective. In other words, information that when put into use brings result. So it's very, very key that we know how to listen. In a negotiation, it's vital. It's vital because you need to prove to the other side that you understand clearly what it is that they're saying. Oftentimes, we spend more time talking than we do listening. I was told that we have 2 sets of ears, or 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much as we speak. I think that's very, very good advice. Spend most of your time listening to people, trying to understand them, rather than trying to get them to understand you. Now, Stephen Covey wrote a book, The 7 Habits to Highly Effective People. I mean, that's a very, very powerful book. Most top professionals read that book. And in point number 4 or 5, I can't remember exactly which one it is, he says, seek first to understand other people before you try to get them to understand you. So it's very, very important then that we seek first to understand other people before we try to get them to understand us. So my skill number 2 is to be a master listener. To be a listener that is so effective that you understand with 100% accuracy what the other person has said. And you got to prove it to the other side that you really did understand exactly what they said, because you are a master listener. You listen actively with empathy and you build rapport even before the negotiation starts. That's very, very powerful. A very, very powerful point is to make sure you are an effective listener and an excellent communicator, that you know how to listen. Remember what I said before, let me put that slide back up, is that you listen, L-I-S-T-N, you look interested, you face the person, you give them eye contact, you give them acknowledgement response, you sit before them, you give acknowledgement response and look at them, not steering but look at them. You inquire with question. That's what the eye is for. You inquire with question. You stay on target. You test your understanding by asking or repeating in your own words what they have said. So what you mean by that is, and then you repeat it in your own words. You evaluate the whole message, the body language, the tone of voice, the words they speak, And you must most certainly do what I call the hardest thing on planet Earth to do, is to neutralize or control your feelings. Neutralize or control your feelings. You got to be able to control your feelings in the negotiation. If you have become irate and upset, and then it's going to rebound back against you. So be very, 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 very good at the ability of listening, and also the ability of communication. Be an ace communicator, accurate, clear, and effective. Tip number 3 then is this, is that you must have goals and values. Now, establish your goals and put them in order of importance. What is the goal? What is it that you're trying to achieve in this negotiation? Before you even enter the negotiation, what is it that you want out of it? What's your goal? Find out what the other parties really want. What do they really want? What do you want? What do they want? You need to understand this even before you go into the negotiation. And even if you don't understand it before you go into the negotiation, that should be your priority at the beginning, is to establish what are their priorities. What is it that they want? And what is it that you want? You should at least know what you want before you go into the negotiation. And you should try your best to understand what they want. Remember, the key is not my solution or your solution or their solution, but our solution. I want us to both win in the situation. You know, my wife and I, or my children, my colleagues at church or work, wherever, a consumer in the shop, I really want us both to win. You remember what I said before? It's not about, the first quadrant, of lose-lose. No. It's not about lose-lose here. That's not negotiation. That's not proper negotiation. It's not about this competitive situation. Now, when I play dominoes, right, with my friends, I'm the win-lose guy, because I'm very competitive. It's not a matter of negotiation. We both want to win. So it's going to come out either way, win-lose with either of us. But that's not a negotiation situation with me. That's a very competitive situation, like sports or football and things like that. All right. So the point here is, it's not about lose-win, about giving up and yielding in, but it's about win-win. That's what it's all about, really. It's about win-win. We both win in this situation as far as possible. As we go through, I will come back more to that. So what you want to do basically is to make sure that you understand clearly what is it that you want in this situation, and what does the other side want. Do not go against your values or expect others to go against theirs. This is a very, very important factor. We're talking about goals and values. What are values? Values are those things that are defined as the most important things to you. Those are the things that you regard as vitally important to you. They are your principles. They are the foundation of what your life represents to you. And so you're saying basically, I will not violate these values no matter what the circumstance or situation is, as far as possible. All right. So what are your values? What are those things that are very important to you? Let's say, for example, you would, for example, one of your values might be that I will not tell lie. I will not cheat. I will not try to deceive the other person. So because that is a value that you hold to, you would not violate it or go against it. So you're going to make sure that you tell the truth. So I'm saying that do not at any stage go against your value or expect the other side to do the same. Are you following me? You got to be fair to them as you are to yourself. So make sure that you understand what it is that you want, and also understand what is it that they want. That's very, very important. Don't expect the other person or the other side to go against their values, as well as don't expect yourself to go against your own values either. Now, that's very, very important. Now, my fourth point is this. I mentioned this before. I mentioned it here. It's about win-win. Okay, that's really what it's about. So create and stick to an agenda, and where appropriate, get decisions in writing. This is very, very important. Okay, be fair, be flexible, and prepare to give up some ground if necessary. You in the negotiation where you get a situation where you got to make an agreement, you may have to give up some ground. And so the other side may have to also give up some ground in order to reach a win-win situation. Remember, the key is not my solution, as I said before, or your solution, but it's about us. It's about our solution. It's about win-win. And so we're aiming for a win-win. And in order to get to a win-win, you may have to give up some grounds, and the other side may have to give up some grounds also. So that's very, very, very important. Now, I came across this particular quote some time ago by John Paul Getty, who was an American oil tycoon, and he makes a very sound point, and I think it's worth mentioning at this juncture. And he says, you must never try to make all the money that's in the deal. Let the other fella make some money too, because if you have a reputation for always making all the money, you won't have many deals. You see, if you try to always win and you're not giving up any grounds, you're not being fair, you're not being flexible, you're not prepared to give up some grounds, the chances are you probably won't have many deals with with that particular party that you are actually negotiating with. So it's very important then to make absolutely certain that you focus on win-win. You focus on making sure that you are flexible, you are fair, and you are ready to give up ground in order to get to the win-win situation. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is that you're trying to do. I think this picture here makes it very clear in my mind as to what we're trying to do. It's not about lose-lose or being competitive or accommodating and yielding and giving up and so on, but it's about reaching to that workable compromise of win-win. And I think that's very, very important. The next thing I want to talk about is in every negotiation, there will always be tactics. Now, this is really, really powerful, I believe. And be very, very careful. Beware of tactics that are used to manipulate, sidetrack, or influence you. Beware of them, because oftentimes people are using tactics in the negotiation to win certain points. Welcome, Brother Michael. So what you want to make sure is that you are aware of the tactics that people use. I'm going to share with you in a moment just a few. There are lots of tactics that people use, and I've used a lot of tactics myself. Do not rush and make rash decisions. If a deadline looks hopeless, buy time. In fact, that's a tactic of mine. I buy time. I would say something like, give me some time to think about this. Let me come back to you tomorrow. And I'll sleep on it. And that's a tactic. You know, I delay the decision until tomorrow, giving me enough time, if you like, to maybe to actually refer it to somebody else, to get somebody else's thoughts, opinion on it, or to sleep on it and to think more about it, or even to get a chance to pray about it even more. But truly, I have some time to actually reflect, not to rush into it. Be careful of rushing into long-term decisions that you may end up regretting. Never use a tactic if it will affect a relationship. Never use a tactic. Again, going back to the point I made about your values. Never violate your values. So some tactics may violate your values. You know, it might cause you to lie. Some people use lying as a tactics, and so on and so forth. So beware of tactics that are used to manipulate. Don't use them, and beware of them when other people may well be using them against you. Here are some tactics that I think you need to look out for. Some of them are very good. One is called the ladder approach. The ladder approach really simply means that what you do basically is like a ladder. Okay, you may want to get to the top ladder, which is the highest, you know, you want out of something. So you start with the smallest point and build your way up. It's called the ladder approach. So you start from the bottom, work your way to the top, and so on. Or you start at the top and work your way to the bottom, whichever way you want to look at it. Silence is also a tactic where people in the negotiation, rather than doing all of the talking, what they do is they spend a lot of time listening. Now, this is a very powerful tactic, by the way. You may have heard the phrase that silence is golden, and it truly, truly is true. So the more you listen in the negotiation, the greater the chances for you to understand what's being said. And the other side might end up making mistakes, because oftentimes when you talk too much, you sometimes give away certain clues. So silence is golden. The walkout, well, it's not one that I like. Sometimes people, get up and they say, well, I just can't continue with this negotiation anymore. And they decide to walk out. It's a tactic because the other side really want the deal, might call them back in quickly. And so they use it as a tactic. Limited authority is another one. Where the person, when it comes to making a decision, say, well, you know what, I need to go and consult my boss because I can't make the decision by myself. And so it's called limited authority. That's why when I go into a negotiation, I always try to find out what power the person that I'm dealing with has, whether they can make a decision without having to go to a committee meeting or without having to go to their boss. So it's important to understand the level of authority and power, responsibility that the person that you're negotiating with has. The feel, felt, found is a powerful technique. It goes like this. I understand how you feel. I felt the same way, but what I found is, and this is a very, very powerful technique. I use it quite a lot. I understand how you feel. I felt the same way, but what I found is X. The next tactic is called the delay. And I mentioned that before. You delay the decision for another day or 2 days or even a week. You let the person know, I'll think about it and get back to you. It's one of my favorite, by the way. And it works for me really, really well because it allows me to go to other people, ask their opinion, allows me to sleep on it. And then when I come back, I have a much better opportunity of making a better decision for myself and even for the other party as well. So remember these tactics. These are not the only tactics. These are just the ones that I thought I'd bring out to you, which is safe to use. These are safe ones to use. But there are other ones where people are very deceptive and they do some really tricky things. But beware of those tactics. Beware of tactics that are used, notice, to manipulate you or to sidetrack or influence you. All right? Don't rush into any decision. All right? I always use the delay where necessary. And I certainly won't use any tactics if I know it's going to violate my values or indeed manipulate or trick other people. The other one is very, very important. The next point I want to talk about is to do with, yes, you got it right, integrity. Integrity is one of the most powerful attributes of a human being. Because if I can't trust you, if I can't trust your word, I can't trust you. And if I don't trust you, I can't trust your word. You and your words are one and the same. So always honor your word. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Because if we can't trust you, if we can't trust your word, we just simply cannot trust you. I hope that makes sense. You and your words are one and the same. Be honest, be faithful. The best way for me to put integrity really is, integrity is your word. You said you were going to be there at 10 o'clock. You said you were going to give me back the £100 you borrowed, but you didn't. And neither did you make any attempt to contact me or to indeed share with me why you couldn't pay. You've lost integrity with me. So integrity is vital. Integrity is your word. Integrity is your yes, your no. Can you be trusted? Are you a person that can be trusted? Because you gave me your word. I believe that your word was important. And Unfortunately, it turned out not to be. Now, as far as I'm concerned, my word is far more important than my signature. My signature is ink on paper. My word is my heart. My heart. And my word is far more important to me than ink on paper. And so if I say it, that's really what I want to hold to. And always, always be honest and faithful. Treat others the way you want them to treat you. So many people, whether it be in a contract situation at work, contract situation in a church, whether it be a marriage, or whether it be whatever it be, and we gave our word. My goodness, man, you should keep your word as far as possible. Now, if you can't keep your word, that's understandable. But when we can't keep our word because we just don't want to, it's not good enough. And so in a negotiation, if you negotiate with me and we made a deal, we made a verbal contract and you didn't keep it, I can't trust you. I can't trust you. And this is the same all throughout. You see, in life, people are very, very, very concerned with decisions that have been made but hasn't been carried through for whatever reason or another. So it's very, very important, therefore, that you look at the area of integrity. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Be honest, be faithful. Make sure that your yes is yes, your no is no. Stick to your word as best as possible. You know, there is a saying by the wise man Solomon when he says, a good name is better than riches. So my name is important to me. My integrity, my honesty, my faithfulness is important to me. So therefore, I don't want to mess my name up in that regards. So therefore, when I come to negotiate, I'm going to make absolutely certain that I stick to my word, because that's very important. Now, if you can't, then you got to give justifiable reason as to why you're unable to do so. But integrity is very, very important. The next area I want to look at is another very powerful area. I spoke about this last week, and you can look at the video for that one at YouTube or Facebook. Now, assertiveness is about stating your needs, your wants, your feelings, opinions, or belief in a very clear, direct, specific, honest, and loving way, and never at the expense of the other person. So in a negotiation, you want to make sure that you're very assertive. Don't be passive or aggressive or appear in a state of paralysis. Are you with me? Suicidal, so to speak. But be confident, be bold. Not to the state of arrogance. That's not what I'm talking about. That's to do with being aggressive. But the state of being assertive, where you understand your rights and you state it clearly, but it's never at the expense of the other person. And so you're trying your best to be positive at all times through the negotiation. So assertiveness skill is one of the powerful and very important skill that you want to adopt. Now, last week I spoke about 4 life positions, and the 4 life positions that you see there on your screen are very, very important. Now, let me just make a few points on that. I mentioned last week about the passive. The passive person says, I'm not okay, but you're okay. I'm not okay, but you're okay. In other words, you're better than me. I'm not as good as you are. You're far better than I am. And that's the passive person speaking. That's the person who doesn't have no confidence in themselves. They put more trust and confidence in other people than they do in themselves. Now, the aggressive person is a person that says, I'm better than you. Is a person that says, you know what, I'm much better than you. They regard themselves as very important. They don't really care much about other people. The three most important person in their life is me, myself, and I. And so they're really not that interested in other people. The worst position basically is the paralysis. It's the state of where most people reach when they are very suicidal. They give up on life. It's a stage where it says, well, I'm not okay, you're not okay, the world is coming to an end, so why bother? But the state that you want to be in is that state of assertiveness, where you are confident, where you're positive, where you know exactly what it is that you want, and you state it very clearly, very directly, very specifically, no beating around the bush, and you do not do so at the expense of other people. And that is a very, very important point to bear in mind, is that you're assertive because you care about yourself and you also care about other people. All right, let's move on to the next thought I want to share. And this thought here, it's so important when we talk about think and reflect. When we talk about think and reflect, always think ahead before you agree to anything. Always. This is an important aspect of any form of negotiation whatsoever. Thinking and reflecting on what it is that you heard or the decision that you have to make. I spoke about the tactics earlier about, delaying it. It's a very important part of negotiation if you want to make the right decision all the time. So it's to make sure that you're thinking and that you're reflecting as much as possible. Think ahead before agreeing to anything. It's very important. Before you agree to anything, whatever that is, think and reflect on it. Get the opinion of other people if you feel the need to do so, because that may help you as you go forward. Continuously review what's going on before, during, and after the negotiation. So if you are going into a negotiation situation, you want to think about that and review that before you go to it. So you got to do some form of preparation before. And always remember these three words: preparation. Never forget these three words I'm about to tell you. Preparation, preparation, preparation. Never forget those three words. Maybe the most important words I speak to you tonight. Preparation, preparation, preparation. So you want to make sure that you are constantly reviewing before, during, and after. I always say that, before, during, and after, because it's important. While you're going through the negotiation, you want to be reviewing. Is it going the way you planned it? How is it going? What do I need to do? And ask yourself some real serious questions. Be creative and imaginative. If there's a stalemate, find the underlying cause. Why is there a stalemate? What's the reason for the stalemate? Once you understand it, you're in a much better position to be able to address it. But you want to make sure, this is the point I really want to get across. I really want to get this point across, is thinking. It's important that you think and reflect before you make any decision whatsoever. Think about it. Take time out, if necessary, to actually make absolutely certain that you have covered all the areas that needs to be covered before you make that final decision. That is very important to make. Okay, welcome again, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Sonia. How you doing? Clive, how you doing, sir? Welcome. Now, we're just 10 minutes away from the end, so let me just move on to my next point, which is interpersonal development. Now, I came across a statement some years ago, to be precise, around 35 years ago. And it's the statement you see here: the largest room in the world is a room for improvement. The largest room. Always remember, no matter how good you are at negotiating, there's always room for improvement. Build on your strengths and eliminate whatever areas you may regard as weakness or development areas with the right training. The right training means that you may need to read a book, you may need to watch a video, you might need to attend a course like this, you might need to speak to somebody, but make sure you spot what the weaknesses that you have or the development areas and you work in it. Always develop your ASK, your attitude, skills, and knowledge. Every job on the planet are based around your attitude, skills, and knowledge. Your attitude to get on with other people, your skill to do the job, and your knowledge about what the job is all about. Very, very important. The more you develop your ASK, the more money you make, the more powerful you become, the more confident you become, and the more people want to be in your presence. Let me say this again. The more you develop your ASK, the more people want to be in your presence, the more money you make, the more powerful you become, the more confident you become, and the more people want to be in your presence. So in developing then your negotiation skills, read more books, go on training courses, watch videos, surf the internet, attend seminars, and listen to the experts in this field. You can only grow. You can only go one way up. And that's the direction in which you should go when we're dealing with negotiation skills. So I strongly recommend to you that you keep moving forward in that area in regards to negotiation. Now, my next point, and this is a very, very important point. This, to me, is the hardest thing on planet Earth to do, is to neutralize or control your feelings. My brothers and sisters, I do not know of anything more harder to do on planet Earth than neutralizing or controlling our feelings, especially in the negotiation process. So you got to control the way you think, the way you feel, the way you talk and act. And do not take things personally. This is one of the things that happen in negotiation, especially between husband and wife and parent and children and friends, is we become too emotional. And then the negotiation ends because we are so emotional. Like that, if you like. Oh, we become so emotional. So we don't want to be emotional people, irate, in other words. That's what I mean by that. So you want to remain calm, self-controlled, honest, and professional. You want to always remain calm, always remain self-controlled, always be honest, and listen. Remember I spoke about that before? Listen more, speak less, and control your anger. There is a verse of scripture, in fact, those of you that are Bible orientated, is James chapter 1 verse 19, where it says, be quick to listen. So listen more. Slow to speak, speak less, and slow to anger, control your anger. This is one of the most powerful things I can share with you. Listen more. Spend more time listening and trying to understand what the other person is saying. Speak less. As I said before, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you speak in the negotiation. Very powerful point. And make sure you control your anger. We should never ever revert to this type of behavior in any situation whatsoever. All right. Unless if you like, unless you are being attacked by some villains with guns and knives or whatever the case is, then you're going to have to protect yourself in that particular situation. But I strongly recommend that you neutralize or control your feelings. This is very, very key and very, very powerful a point that I'm making here. All right, finally, you got to, before you go into the negotiation, and this is key, I want to make sure I get this point across. Before you go into the negotiation, you need to do your research. You remember what I said before? Preparation, preparation, preparation. Do your research, prepare in advance, and determine your bottom line goal. You remember I spoke about your goal before, but you need to game plan. Before you go into the negotiation, what's your bottom line? In other words, let me explain. Let me go on first. All right, I'll come to that in a moment. Be creative and come up with more than one alternative. In other words, let's say, for example, I'm going to negotiate with you the purchasing of a car. All right. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I use it right. I'm going to purchase a car from you. So I've got my first price, my second price, and my third price. Really, my bottom line, really, my bottom line is my number three. My bottom line really is I'm not willing to spend more than £10,000. That's my bottom line. I'm going to set another figure that I'm going to focus on at maybe around 9,000, but I might start the bidding at around 7,000. So I've got three figure, but my bottom line, I'm going to mark that in red. That's my bottom line. I cannot and will not go over the 10,000. So I've got my maximum, which is my maximum. This is my maximum. This is my ideal. And this is my minimum. So, I tell you a joke. And I went to buy a car, in fact. And I was told when I'm negotiating, never be the first one to give the price. That's what I was told. Never be the first one to give the price. So when I went into the negotiation, I said to the gentleman, how much are you selling the car for? And he said to me, give me an offer. And I says, it's a very nice car. But what do you want for it? So he said, give me an offer. And I says that, but you're selling the car. What do you want for the car? Now, in my mind, I'm never going to give him more than 5,000. I can't remember exactly what the price was. Let's assume the price was 5,000 because it was something crazy. Eventually, he said to me, I could have the car for 2,000. The car has been sold for 2,000. I was so shocked because I was willing to go to 5,000. Now, if I had started the bidding at 5,000, I wouldn't have realized that I could have got away with 3,000. So I said to him, I need to go away and think about it and come back. No, I could have come back and said to him, I'll give you 1,500 for it. But what I did was I came back, gave him the 2,000, took the car. But if I had started the bidding in that situation, I may have lost 3,000. However, in this point that I'm making here, before you go into any negotiation, you want to make sure you have your MIM, your MIM, your maximum, your ideal, and your minimum. And you want to start with your minimum. You start here. You start with number one. Does that make sense? You start with number one. So you make sure that your first price is number one. If that doesn't work, then you push it up to number two. And then finally, you're never going to go beyond there. Does that make sense? Negotiate like a pro. I hope that makes sense. Now, it's just 1 minute to go. And we don't want to keep you guys too long. I want to say welcome to everyone. Welcome, Sonia. I have put these in a very, very easy way. If I just recap on these 11 points that I've just shared with you, is you want to, they're not in any order of priority, but bear these 11 points in mind. is nonverbal communication. Remember, as I said before, 93% of your communication is done non-verbally. Your body language, your tone of voice, etc. So be careful, be aware of that. I mentioned about listen. Very powerful. Listen and communicate. Be an ace communicator. Accurate, clear, and effective. Make sure you look interested. You inquire with questions. You stay on target. You test your understanding. You evaluate the message and you neutralize your feelings. When you go into the negotiation, make sure you know what your goals are and what their goal. What is it that you want from the negotiation? What is it that they want? Always remember, it's a win-win. That's what it is. It's a win-win. It's not about lose-win or win-lose or lose-lose. It's about win-win. Never use tactics or beware of tactics that are going to manipulate or sidetrack you. Never use a tactic that will manipulate or indeed affect the relationship. But there are tactics that you can use that are positive. Remember, your word. Is your word more important than your signature? Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Be honest and be truthful. Be assertive. Don't be passive or aggressive or a state of don't care. But be assertive, be positive. And always remember what assertiveness is. It's about being clear about what you want. It's about stating it clearly, but not at the expense of other people. Always think and reflect. Don't rush into decisions. Delay it so you can think about it and reflect upon it. Remember your interpersonal development. The largest room in the world is a room for improvement. Watch more videos, read more books, go to more training seminars, and learn more about negotiation. All right. Hardest thing on planet Earth to do. Remember what I said. Hardest thing on planet Earth to do is to neutralize or control your own feelings. You've got to be calm. You've got to remain positive. You've got to be able to control your own feelings, your own emotions. Because if you don't, you'll end up in a situation whereby you destroy the negotiation. And remember, finally, game plan. Always have your MIM. Your maximum, your minimum, your ideal, your maximum. Your minimum, your ideal, your maximum. Must always have 3 figures. Start with the minimum and work your way up to the maximum. That will make you a master pro negotiator. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. Really do appreciate you guys being here. If there are any questions or any comment for me, go ahead. I'm just going to check the chat room just to make sure. Please go ahead and leave any messages that you want. And I will take those messages or comments that anyone may have. But thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. It's been a joy sharing with you some tips that I have. And if at all you want to connect with me, if you want me to run a course for your organization, and so, well, there are my contact details. You can reach me on those details there. All right, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you guys tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to the webinar. Wish you guys all the best for the weekend coming up. Looking forward to the weekend. I've got dinner to go to, I think I've got 2 dinners to go to over the weekend. Plus I'll be preaching in church on Sunday. Looking forward to that with great excitement. In fact, I'm not so sure why, but I am. And I'll be back here on Monday with another Monday night Bible studies, and back again next week Thursday with another 1-hour lesson. Not sure what that would be next week, but look out. If you haven't yet subscribed to the show, subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and as soon as those shows are posted, then you'll get a notification and a reminder to join me. And you can always send those links out to your network if you want to. Once again, there are no questions or comment from me. Thank you, Sonia Beckford. You are welcome. Appreciate your comments. And I like to finish the show on time, and then the questions can go till midnight. So I'm happy to stay around and stick around until midnight. It's almost midnight anyway, so if you have any questions or comment, you can go ahead and post those. I hope you guys are getting ready for election next week, the 12th. I don't even know who I'm voting for yet. It's one of those decisions that I have to make. I have to sleep on that one, ask the Lord's guidance in that one as to what to do for next week. But thank you so much. If there are no questions or comments, then I will move on. But if you have any questions or comment, you can actually just go ahead and post those in the chat room, either at YouTube or at Facebook. You know, negotiation is such a powerful and very important part of what we do. And I came across some quotes today I thought I would just throw up maybe. And here's one from Victor, and a very, very powerful one, in fact. And love this quote a great deal. Negotiation, he says, should never become a dirty game. Once you've agreed to a deal, don't back out of it unless the other party fails to deliver as promised. It's a great point to what I was saying tonight. Your handshake is your bond. That is so powerful a point. As far as I'm concerned, a handshake is worth more than a signed contract. As an entrepreneur, a reputation for integrity, I mentioned about that tonight, is your most valuable commodity. Yes. If you try to put something over on someone, it will come back to haunt you. Thank you for that point, Victor. That's a powerful, powerful, powerful point there. Good evening to you, Michael. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us, and also to my good friend and Pastor Pat and Lucas. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really appreciate that. This as a relationship, our relationships are a constant negotiation and balance. I totally agree with that point. I'm married, so I know exactly about that. It says here, never forget the power of silence. I mentioned about that also. This is by Lance Morrow. He's a very powerful guy. He said, never forget the power of silence. I think that's so powerful. That massively disconcerting pause, which goes on and on and on, and may induce an opponent to babble and backtrack nervously. So I mentioned that point earlier as well about the power of silence. It's one of the tactics, the power of silence. Be silent. Let the other person share what they have to share. I like what this next thought said by Richard. Let us move from the era of confrontation to the era of negotiation. And that is so true. There is so much confrontation going on and so on. So let me leave that point there. Let me put this one up instead. Okay. This is by Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Very, very powerful guy, in fact. He says, the better you are at communicating, all right, negotiating, and handling your fear of rejection, the easier life is. And I really strongly agree with Robert on that. Another thought that you cannot negotiate with people who say what's mine is mine and what's yours is negotiable. Oh man, these are selfish people. What's mine is mine, but we can negotiate what's yours. That's truly a most amazing insult. Finally, the most difficult thing in any negotiation almost is making sure that you strip it of the emotion and deal with the facts. And that's the point I was making also earlier. We got to neutralize and control our feelings. Get our feelings out the way. Get our emotions, those irate moments out the way. Just deal with the facts. Just present the facts. That's why I love the courtroom of judges. I love the way that judges operate in the courtroom. Well, in my experience anyway, I've never seen them, lose their temper and become irate. Some of them do. I'm talking about the ones I've had dealings with. And they were very calm. All they were interested in is the facts. And once the facts were there, clear as crystal, then decisions can be made. So I think it's a powerful point by Howard Baker here. The most difficult thing in any negotiation almost is making sure that you strip it of the emotions and deal with the facts. What are the facts? Let's place the facts on the table and let's decide upon the facts rather than to decide upon our emotions and so on. All right. That is truly wonderful. Jean, Peyton, welcome. Sister Elizabeth, welcome. You're late, but yes, I agree. You're late, but you're here. And thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate you guys being here. I don't know if anyone has a question for me. It doesn't have to be a negotiation. If you have a question of any kind, then you can go ahead and, share those with me. And I'd be more than happy to comment on anything that you want me to. If not, then I'm going to leave it there and wish you guys a wonderful, 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 wonderful weekend. And those of you that I will see, I look forward to seeing you. Those of you that are elsewhere, enjoy your family. And guess what? We are only, I believe, today is what date? The 5th? Is it the 5th today? I'm having to look. Yeah, the 5th today. It's 20 days to Christmas. Unbelievable, really. 20 days to Christmas. Unbelievable. But there you have it. Well, guys, wish you all the best. No questions, no comments for me, so I will leave it just there then. Take care of yourself and your family until next time. Bye for now.